You want to know what feels good, brothers? It feels good when I'm out and about, whether it's I'm out here in Dallas, where I'm in another, city or state, and I cross paths with a brother that's dapping me up, man, saying, Soul, I appreciate you making that video about, X, Y, and Z. And we may sit there and talk about it for a few seconds. That feels good, man, to have made something that impacted a man's life in some way, shape, form, or fashion, brothers. But I'm gonna tell you, of all the content I've made, there's nothing that has had more of an impact than Beautiful Faces of Evil. Brother, I've literally had brothers call me up on the phone, man, holding back tears on how much this documentary changed their lives. Because you gotta understand, man, that when I'm talking about the godless woman, when I'm talking about the Proverbs 5 woman, I'm not talking about something to inspire you. I'm not talking about something to motivate you to be a better man. Brother, I'm telling you how to save your life. I'm talking about how to protect your soul. So it's not even about giving a man a warning on what's out there. It's about shifting the generations behind you. You know what I'm saying? You gotta understand this, bro. Like, you have to understand that the generation of men before us, even though they were solid men, a lot of these men were married men and upstanding in their communities. A lot of the men in the generations before us, brother, were moving a certain way. I know a lot of brothers, man, that have sisters and brothers that they never met, but they know exist. I know a lot of men that had, pretty much had second lives with other families and kids overseas. Men were just moving a lot different. So they weren't really in position to warn us about our greatest threats, man, which is the godless woman. And the reason I think that me sharing, my true life events, my true story with brothers has had an impact is because not only can I read this in the Bible, not only can I just go to Proverbs 5 and says, this woman will take you to death. This woman is bad news pretty much. Brother, I've seen this. Brother, I lost my own father behind a Proverbs 5 woman because he chose to move a certain route. Not only did I see it firsthand, brother, I felt like my soul, my life was steps away from death, traveling the same path that he had traveled. So when I clear my mind of that and come out of that and tell brothers my story, I'm telling everything from a first-hand count, brothers. But of all the things I've talked about, man, if you hear nothing else that I say, pay attention to when I'm talking about the Proverbs 5 woman. What I'm going to share with you, brothers, is just an excerpt from the documentary Beautiful Faces of Evil. And if you feel led to watch the whole thing, brother, I say watch the whole thing. There are several brothers, man, that say, I wish every man on the planet could see this. So, brothers, the godless woman. I can still remember, the day that my dad died, just like it was yesterday, right? I just turned 13. I was in the 8th grade, and it was about 10 o'clock at night, give or take, right? And what I remember is everybody was asleep. My mom was in the bed asleep. I was in my room sleep. My sister was home from college. She was in her room sleep. And we got this knock at the door, right? And I could hear down the hall what was going on. My mom answered the door, and it was the police. The guy announced himself as the police, and I'm just kind of listening in. And what threw me for a loop is the first thing they were asking about is my sister. They were just asking questions about my sister, like, is your daughter's name this? Does your daughter attend this college? And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, like my sister, she done messed up. She done did something crazy, right? And then the conversation swapped, right? They said, okay, well, ma'am, do you know, a man by this name? And they said my dad's name. And they said, well, ma'am, he's been in an auto accident. And by this time, I'm getting up and I'm putting my clothes on, because I knew something wasn't right. And by the time I opened my door to get ready to walk down the hall, she was saying, well, was he all right? And they were saying, no, he didn't make it. Is there anybody you can call?
I mean, all I can remember is my mom breaking down, man. I'm talking about breaking down. And all I could think about is when I was walking down the hall to get to the living room, all I could feel is just, taking this information in. All I could feel is that, my life would never be the same. Part of the childhood that I had left was going to be altered because now I had to be a man. You know what I'm saying? So as I walked in the living room, man, and my sister's in there now, and I'm hugging them both, they're breaking down, crying. I'm just sitting there telling them that everything's going to be all right, right? Now, this was bad, man. This was hard. It was tough. But what would happen the next day was very weird. So I'm laying in my bed the following morning, a small crowd is there, friends, family, next door neighbors are all over there. And I'm just laying on my bed in my room by myself, and the phone is ringing, right? And I get up and I answer the phone and I say, hello. And no one is saying nothing, but if I listen real close, I can hear a lady like crying, right? So I says, hello, and all she said was, I'm sorry. So I said, can I ask who's speaking? And then she said, it's my fault. She says, your dad was here last night. And by that time, I remember my sister walking in, and I'm shocked. I'm 13, but I'm old enough to understand what she's saying. You know what I'm saying? And I hand my sister the phone, and my sister had a few words exchanged with her, and she hung up, right? And I can remember just looking at my sister, and we didn't say a word, man. And we just had this vibe, like this is something that we're going to the grave with. Like this just didn't happen, right? Because you have to understand, man, at 13 years old, less than 24 hours, after, before, less than 24 hours of my dad passing away, I'm getting this call and I'm hearing this information. Man, you have no idea of what kind of emotions were stirring up in me, man. I'm sad, I'm down, I'm angry, I'm confused. You know what I'm saying? And all I could think about, I was like, well, man, well, why would he do that? I'm like, what was that about, right? And then I was thinking about my mom. I was like, maybe my mom isn't perfect, but I know she's solid, She goes to work every day, she's getting that bag, she's cooking every day. And I know there were several nights in my youth, man, that I heard my mom up 2, 3 in the morning, helping my dad on his life mission, right? So I was just confused. And then, I just kept pondering on it. I was like, why did she call? Like, what is it that she really wanted? And ultimately I asked, who was this strange woman? Now, the fans of The Matrix may refer to her as the lady in the red dress, right? While some churchgoers may know her as Jezebel. But for me, I simply call her the godless woman. I think about our upbringing, right? I mean, schools taught us to recite poems. Church taught us to love our neighbors, right? But nobody really, sit us down to tell us about, the strange woman. You know what I'm saying? I can tell you this. There are several men in prison behind this woman right now, guys. And, there are several men that are sleeping under bridges, that are sleeping on top of park benches behind this woman. And unfortunately, guys, there are several men that went to an early grave behind her. I mean, think about it. Think about the men of the book, right? Think about Samson, who was said to be one of the strongest men to ever live, right? And Delilah brought him down. Think about King Solomon. He was said to be one of the wisest men to ever walk the planet, right? And just him getting, over involved with so many women, is what brought him down, right? And then I think about David. David was said to be a man after God's own heart. And after he got mixed up with Bathsheba, again, it was part of his downfall. So what I think about, guys, I think, even though these are symbols of greatness of the good book, I say that same essence still runs through our veins, right? And then I say, well, if this is true, then what does that mean? It means she's coming for you. Now, I'll give y'all a heads up, right? There are only really 3 ways a man can fall victim to the strange woman. 1, he lacks discipline. These are the brothers that have no control over their sexual desires. 2, the brothers that have, the ego issues. Any brother that's kind of, overfeeling himself, but his days are numbered. And then 3, the man that falls victim is the man that can't resist the woo of a woman. See, you have to understand something, brothers. Many of us feel that we are so sharp that a woman of this nature couldn't dare touch us. But see, she's not coming at you with horns up, walking hand in hand with the devil as one may think. Nah, when it comes to the strange woman, there is no greater master of disguise. Le Chameleon, the chameleon. While she still may show signs of her red dress ways to those that observe closely, trust me, the strange woman will have studied your way of life completely and adapted to your environment. See, she'll know about your friends, your family, the pros and cons of your ex relationship, and will most definitely be familiar with the path that you walk. So how does it begin? Grocery store, party, club, doesn't matter. See, when you meet this woman, you're going to be convinced that she's completely different than all women from your past. I think Proverbs says that her speech is like honey and her mouth is smooth as oil, which means she knows exactly what she needs to say. Her vibe, her smile, her conversation. It'll all be as though your thoughts are both coming from the same place. But brothers, one thing that you must know, this is her tool.